This is Econo Chat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman. In case you've just tuned in, you are locked to the Power Station Energy 100, and I'm your hostess, Elsie Tipinyani. We are talking regulation and compliance in connection with risk management, I would call it.
Yes, 100%.
And also looking at the regulatory bodies. And Mr. Daniel Steinman did touch on NAMFISA being one of, for SMEs or insurance companies or what regulatory bodies NAMFISA does, is one of them. But of course, Mr. Daniel Steinman, let's just quickly touch on the SME Bank, because I see that we're talking regulatory bodies. SME Bank.
Elsie, I don't want to go there.
Not now.
Everybody wants to hear something about SME Bank. Now let's before I get to SME.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I kept that for last. Is that you have to look at who is authorized to be a regulatory body.
Yeah.
So because that concept is very wide, and you don't find it in any other legislation where it is very accurately defined, or which actually referred to as this is a regulatory body. Usually you see from the acts that define the activities of these regulatory bodies, you see that they are regulatory bodies.
Yeah.
So let's take, for instance, the Law Society of Namibia.
Okay.
Which is the body that all the lawyers must belong to. And you pay an annual membership fee, and this is how it's funded. And they've got the Legal Practitioners Act. Now, the Legal Practitioners Act is it's like the Companies Act for businesses. It's for lawyers. It defines everything that a lawyer must or mustn't do. So there's also a very strong compliance element, because if you outside the law, if you breach any of the regulations that applies to lawyers, then you will know that you will be in trouble. And that you will be charged before disciplinary committee, and that you may get a fine. But the fines are not defined in the law. With NAMFISA, it is different.
Yeah.
In each one of the categories, there is a very clear penalty, very well described, and stating very clearly, if you do this and this, or if you fail to do this and this, we are going to charge you, and if we find you guilty, or if we can prove the case against you, we're going to fine you 10 million. You see, that's why I use that as an example, where compliance is becoming a risk in itself. And it's something that you have to sort of get your mind around it a little bit, because remember, in the beginning I said risk and compliance are two sides of the same coin. Risk is where you have to sort of identify what can go wrong, and compliance is there's a regulatory body that tries to prevent that risk or minimize it, at least as much as is possible. So it's kind of a weird situation if you get to the point where the regulator becomes the risk.
Tricky, but I'm sure that the listeners also get it.
You see, so and I don't think many people realize it, because I always think, okay, we've got the regulator for this, and the regulator is the watchdog, and the regulator is industry specific, or trade specific, or profession specific, and they sort of watch out that things don't go wrong, that if it's public money, that the public money is safeguarded. And if it's the banks, that they all conform to whatever regulations there are for the commercial banks, and that they basically comply with it. And now you get this anomalous situation where that body that is supposed to make sure that everything goes well becomes the risk in itself. BPAS is also an example, but there are many regulatory bodies in Namibia. every act where it gives the minister or the executive director the authority to issue regulations creates de facto a regulatory body, whether it exists or not. But the medical council is a regulatory body.
Yeah.
It tells doctors what they must do, but most importantly, it tells doctors what they must not do.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't comply as a medical professional, they charge you. There's disciplinary action against you, and I'm really not sure whether you get a penalty or whether you have to pay something when they find you guilty. But I don't think they need to give you a penalty when you're a doctor. It's very similar to being a lawyer. Those people, they have substantial incomes. So the mere fact that you can scrap them from the register, so to speak, that you can take away their means of income, is what prevents them from not complying with their regulations. And now we get to that juicy part, that saucy part. And I want to use SME Bank as a specific example. So let's quickly take a breather, and then we come back, and then we talk about when regulation fails. Because that is what happened there.
Definitely. I can't wait for us to come back, but we need to go to the short break.